This is season 2 of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. There are some conversations society tells men they should never have. Conversations about emotional exhaustion, about loneliness, about pressure, about anger, about being overwhelmed, or even about feeling emotionally unseen. For generations, many men, especially fathers, have been praised for surviving while silently suffering. They've been taught to protect, to provide, to stay strong, to keep moving, and to carry everything without collapsing. But somewhere along the way, many men learned that vulnerability was dangerous, that emotions are weakness, that silence was strength. And the truth is, silence is not always peace. Sometimes silence is survival. And today's conversation matters because emotionally healthy fathers don't just impact households, they impact generations. And when fathers heal, families heal. Today, we are having a conversation about emotional wellness, masculinity, fatherhood, vulnerability, healing, and what emotionally present leadership truly looks like. Welcome to Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. James, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to start here because sometimes titles can keep people connected from the humanity of someone's story. So for those who are meeting you for the first time, who is James Jackson beyond the title and credentials? And what parts of your personal journey shape the man people see today?
Well, again, thank you for that introduction. My name is James Jackson. Beyond the titles, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a man of faith. And these are some of the things that have shaped me throughout my life. Being a man of faith, that lets me know how I'm supposed to move in this world. But also, it also lets me know that I am supposed to be a difference maker, that I'm also thinking about legacy. And I love how you talked about what men need to do. And the legacy aspect is something that is drives me because I want to make an impact while I'm on this earth. I want my legacy to live on. And I want people to remember me as a family man, but also as an intentional father.
Love that. Love that. So now tell the people a little bit about what you do.
So I'm the CEO at Rooted in Healing, and we are a wellness company, and we provide mental health services in Washington, D.C. And mental health services ranging from coaching, therapy, mental health workshops, things such as that. And 2024, 2025 has been exceptionally great because we've been able to lean into our motherhood and our fatherhood. And I'm in charge over our fatherhood department. So this year we've been able to make strides uh, reaching out and supporting dads throughout Washington, D.C. And this has been an incredible turnout because I've also written books on fatherhood because I believe that this is something that is needed in our community. And when we look at a lot of the things that plague our communities, Dr. J, you kind of said it. There are many things that in our community can be solved with having strong fathers and strong leadership in our households. And when we're able to do that, that's when we're able to really see change.
Yeah, yeah. So I had the pleasure of meeting James recently at the DC Chamber Small Business Expo, and I was drawn to your table because one, I saw it was mental health, and I actually helped with creating a fatherhood program in Montgomery County. And so we had just a rich conversation, and I was like, yeah, we got to talk, right? And we didn't get deep into the personal part about you being a father and your faith. So
Right.
I think what makes this conversation is going to make it that much more powerful is that it's personal as well as it's aligned with your purpose. So, talk
Correct.
to us about what led you into fatherhood wellness work specifically.
Well, I have been told by men, whether it's friends, whether it's people that I look up to, that I this is something that I need to really take seriously. Becoming a father isn't something that we just luck into, isn't something that we walk into. This is something that we need to take seriously. And I've been I take a lot of things that other men say seriously. Not to say that I wouldn't take it if other women like said it, but when I see especially men who are older than me, who have families, and they talk about the different things that I could do to really impact the community or impact my family. These are some of the things that I listen to. Like, so before I got married, I did a premarital counseling at our church. My wife, or my prospective wife, who's my wife now, she had her own business. I had my own business as well, but we were didn't really know what we wanted to do. And this is when people were saying, well, with you getting married and you really want to start your family, you might want to think about doing something that aligns with fatherhood. So I always kept that in the back of my mind, that fatherhood, because people were saying, like, James, I see the work that you're doing. I was heavily involved in nonprofit work. This is something that dads need.
Okay.
Right after I had my baby, and which was one of the highlights of my life, but it was also one of the most trying times of my life because you gotta keep it all
Mm,
together. My wife was going through postpartum, and the birthing experience was just a lot. I was like, "Now I understand why people are saying that dads need all this. Now I understand why people are saying dads need this type of support. Now I'm understanding the mental capacity that is
mhm.
needed to do this work." So these are some of the things that really led to me wanting to do a fatherhood program.
That's really it's one of those things people they can only tell you so much because no two experiences with becoming a new parent are the same for women or for men, right? And
Exactly.
so they tried as best as they could. And I love that they were encouraging you. And it's always interesting when you get those moments and they just stick with you. And you're like, I don't know why that stuck. And then the moment comes and you're like, this is what
Right.
it, right?
Right.
You have those full circle moments. So, was there a defining moment where you realized that fathers needed emotionally safe spaces too? For years, I've been traveling the world, and honestly, I kind of been gatekeeping it. The beautiful resorts, the hidden gems, the cultural experiences, the moments that completely reset you and remind you there's so much more in life to experience. And I'm not doing that anymore. I've officially partnered with Trova Trip because I'm ready to start creating unforgettable experiences with you. Think luxury meets culture, beautiful destinations, incredible food, amazing energy, new memories, new friendships, the kind of trip that you talk about for years after you get back home. And the best part, we're doing it together. I want to know where you want to go. Bali, Morocco, Tanzania, South of France, somewhere else completely? Tell me. This is your official invitation to travel with Dr. J. Join the VIP list now for early access to destination reveals, trip drops, and priority booking opportunities before they are released publicly. If you're ready for experiences that feel intentional, elevated, and forgettable, my link is in the bio. Come see the world with me. Quick pause. I've been loving Canvas Beauty, a Black woman owned brand all about confidence and self care. Shop canvasbeautybrand.com/Genie3 and use code Genie3 to save. Now back to Rise and Thrive.
Right after the birth of my first child. And I don't want to get like too in the weeds of things, but just imagine, you have your birth chart, right? This is exactly how you want the birth to go. You have your birth plan and things like that. Just imagine nothing went according to plan. So
Okay.
you have that. And then you have the aspect of, yeah, I'm also trying to advocate for my wife. So I took all the courses. I had a doula who wasn't even allowed in the hospital.
Oh,
And that's not something that anybody ever told me. So I'm really, compared to, like, I love to plan. I love to come up with things, and I'm solution oriented. So when these things happen, I was just like, man, this is true. all the things that they say when it comes to the stats, when they start talking about mortality rates, when it starts talking about the differences between Black women giving birth and other races giving birth, this is all true because I talk to other people and they're like, "Oh yeah, my birthing experience was great. It was
Yeah.
magical." And I was like, well, that was not my case, and that was not, it was quite a dramatic time, and I'm speaking from my perspective, so my
Right.
wife's perspective was way worse, and when after that experience was up, I was like, "Man, there's a lot of trauma to really unpack." So, I knew it right after the birth of my daughter that I was, and trust me, everyone survived, everyone's
Mhm.
healthy. So when you really think of it, it was still 100% a success because everyone
Okay.
walked away. I have a healthy born child. Everyone walked away great. My wife, um, walked away healthy from that experience. But there's still a lot to unpack, and I knew from there that this is something that I really wanted to take seriously, and this is something that I really wanted to do because, yes, our company can focus on providing mental health services, but how can we really dig deeper? How can we really make an impact? Because there's a lot of men who are out here hurting, who are out here
Mhm.
struggling, and they need ways to unpack their trauma when it comes to being a father. And that's something that you can't really kind of say out loud almost because then it's like, well, what about the trauma that Black women are experiencing? Because the trauma
Mhm.
Black women are experiencing is through the roof as well. So when it comes to giving a space and a voice to the things that the fathers are dealing with, these are some of the things that really led me to do this type of work in our community.
Yeah, that's a lot in itself, right? That and
Absolutely.
you're bringing up, like, there's dual trauma that's happening there, like, what your wife is experiencing, what you're experiencing, but then also your vicarious trauma through seeing her go through it, right?
Right.
Excuse me. So there's so much that's there in itself, and something I heard when you're saying you don't want it was almost like you didn't wanna speak on your trauma because your wife's trauma was greater when it doesn't have to be an or. And I think that's
Right.
one of those things that can happen that causes or contributes to the silence of men is that or where, well, she has it worse than me. He has it worse than me. That comparison. And when we do that, we're silencing our own selves and
Exactly.
invalidating our own experience, right? And
Yep.
that contribute to that pressure because it doesn't stop you from feeling what you're feeling.
Exactly. And I mean, you're 100% right when it comes to that, and you kinda said it earlier, that silence that's on the inside of us, and we're taught that it's great to be silent, like, and even how society is, we're just taught to push forward. We're just taught to man up, and at the end of the day, that's not the route that we should take because a lot of times we end up having, uh results, and these results of that silencing a lot of times have men showing up the way that we don't wanna show up.
And so what you're describing is what I often talk with clients about is that when we don't communicate, when we don't work on it, you know how like when people get married and you see in the movies they put the stuff on the back of the car, the stuff
Right,
all the noise. Well,
right,
except you're carrying a trailer hitch of stuff
right,
behind you and sometimes a whole RV with another hitch. You know what I mean?
right,
Depending upon how much unresolved trauma, unexpressed emotions, concerns are there. And this is how we can, something like you said, it shows up in ways that a man maybe isn't trying to show up, but they've not been taught how to express those emotions in a healthy way without it
exactly,
being perceived as being soft
right.
or anything being that's not manly, and you see little boys being taught as early as, like, 3 or 4, or even earlier, "Little man." No, that is a boy.
Right,
Like, you can teach him things, but don't put that man title on him Don't dress him exactly like his daddy, where he looks just like a little man, like
Right.
literally. And you not saying that it's not cute to match.
Yeah.
Very cute thing, right? But just putting so much on a boy, on a toddler, it's a lot. So,
Absolutely.
um, and then they're taught they can't express. And really, that's for some people, that's where it starts. The not crying. They're
Right.
3. They're supposed to cry. They don't
Right.
have the words to express their emotions yet.
Right.
So when I think I maybe even got into this a little bit, but I want to hear from you. So, what do you believe men, especially fathers, are silently carrying emotionally that society often overlooks? And how does that emotional weight begin to show up in their everyday life?
Well, one thing that I can say that I've already talked about is the birthing experience.
Mhm.
I believe that there's a lot of unpacked trauma, unpacked feelings around the birthing experience, and that's been kinda growing, and a lot of times it's from my experience, the birthing experience, we were, as a dad and talking to some of the other dads that I've, coached and, facilitated these fatherhood programs, a lot of times we just feel insignificant.
Mm,
And throughout the process, a lot of times there was instances where I would have to fight for my birthing chart or our birthing chart because people were trying to deviate. Nurses, doctors were trying to deviate to what our birthing chart was saying. So I would actually advocate for my wife who just gave birth, right? And they're trying to give vaccines that we said that we didn't want. And they were trying to do procedures that we also said we didn't want. I would communicate that and the doctor would bypass me and go to my wife and be like, "Hey, your husband's saying this, who's been in the room the entire time, who's going to every single doctor's appointment. Is this something that you want to do?" I'm like, "Why are you talking to my wife? She you literally woke her up and whatnot." But there's a lot of insignificance that a lot of times we feel. And for me, it started at that moment. And then it just kind of gotten bigger. Whereas when you're trying to lead, that a
mm,
lot of times society makes it feel like that we're not really necessary and that there really doesn't need to be a father in the household. Look at some of the policies that's being passed in our community. Look at some of these family programs. A lot of times they bypass the fact that a dad needs to be present and a dad needs to be empowered to make decisions for their family. As I said earlier, it's all about legacy. It's all
mm,
about what type of impact we can leave in our family. If we have present dads over and in leadership in our families and in our communities, would we be seeing these teen takeovers all across Washington, DC? It's not just across Washington, DC, it's in a lot of major cities across the country. These
mm,
are some of the things that a lot of times it's kind of like dads are kind of having to step back and just say, well, if if we were prioritized, some of these things that are happening that you can't just put money into, or you can't just make a quick little policy shift and it will fix all the things happening in our community. A lot of times, if we prioritize on bringing the family together, then we can affect change. And that means having a strong in the household. That means having a strong leader to lead our family and to promote legacy. Because I think that's one of the biggest things missing is what type of legacy do we want to leave
mhm.
in our blueprint, in our footprint? And that goes a long way to changing our community.
Yeah. So you're talking about some things that are multi-layered. So even in your experience, the systemic experience of Black men and fathers,
Yes,
right? So just even what you said, them trying to bypass you to go to your wife, the insignificant part. And I think that could also contribute to some of the negative feelings, right?
exactly.
And even well, do I want to go as far as to say identity, but just your role. Um,
Yep.
Identity is in there too, identity
Yep.
and all of that, right? And then when you just look historically at how services are set up, right? Like women can it's focused on women and children. There's a belief that if
Yes.
the man of the household, there should be like no needs for services.
Right.
Or certain services are it's just the woman and the child. The father cannot be in the home. So it promotes the separating of families to allow for there to be provision because just because supports are needed, it doesn't mean that the mother and the father aren't working. It just means that the skill set maybe that they have or the jobs they're able to get or the hours do not meet the needs of the family. So there's that whole notion of the deserving poor, right?
Yep.
I would encourage you because I'm not going to go real scholarly here, but I would encourage you to read the Moynihan report. I want to send it to you. Actually, I'll send it. Are you familiar?
Yes.
Well, go ahead then. If you want to go there.
We had a Forge for Fathers. It was the State of the Black Fatherhood in Washington, D.C. It was
Okay.
a major event. It was at DHS, and we had a lot of different entities involved, a lot of different organizations, different fatherhood programs as well. For instance, like the Greater Washington Urban League was there, Bright Beginnings, they were there, CFSA. So this was like a major event that
Hmm.
Rooted in Healing sponsored. Dr. David Miller, who writes for the Moynihan Report, was talking about the findings, and the findings are shocking.
Hmm.
And something that really, when read these reports and things like that, and I talk to these individuals, it really shows that we have a lot of work that we need to do, a lot of work that we need to do. And you said it perfectly, that just because, again, my experience, I needed help
Hmm.
after my first two childbirths, or
Hmm.
like I needed support. And a lot of times it's just like, oh, well, y'all are a two-parent household. You are good. Like like, no, like I needed help. So it just shows you that a lot of the things that we really need support with, that w- society really doesn't view it that way. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, because some of the things, and even some of the things related to Black women, I mean, the Moynihan Report talks about, and I'm just like, man, because how do we really protect Black women? And a lot of times it's having a strong male leader
Hmm.
around to protect Black women. Because my overall goal in pregnancy was, I do not want my wife to end up on one of these horrible statistician reports. I do not want my wife to fall victim to one of the negative mortality rate stats that is coming out. So that means trying my best, integrating myself in classes, hiring doulas, going through different routes, and looking up what are some of the things needed. Like, what is the nutrition that is needed in order to make this birth a success? So these are some of the things that are just important, but how we're able to really protect and provide is by having a strong man and a strong father around.
That's so good. That's so good. And then just even historically in this country, other that I'm one of those people. I'm gonna be honest. There's so many things that impact Black and brown families. Well, just I'll stick up focus on our community that come from the enslavement period,
Exactly.
right? And so it's hard to we need strong leaders, but there are some families generation have been without strong leaders for several generations, and people are just now breaking those cycles. And
Absolutely.
you have even sometimes younger individuals being good fathers that men in previous generations admire them because
Right.
they were able to break the cycle.
Right.
So it's simple to say we need Black leadership, but we need to also understand the context and why there's even an absence. And it then because it's not there, then they can blame and say, well, you're not a leader. But if you're looking, that's looking at it in isolation. How
Exactly.
did we get here?
Right. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's important. That's important how we arrived, and thank you for bringing up the history,
Mhm.
because a lot of times um if we don't understand our history, a lot of times we're bound to repeat.
Absolutely.
And, in my fatherhood book, that's something, and in my, fatherhood, uh, uh in like the fatherhood sessions that I do, I have a section about breaking generational cycles. And I always tell people, I'm not going to be super spiritual. I'm not going to be I'm
Yeah.
granted, curse is probably real. Absolutely. I'm not even going to give it power by calling it a generational curse. But
Mhm.
one thing that we have to realize that we are in cycles and
Mhm.
generational cycles that at the end of the day, I'm gonna do exactly what the people did before me,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna continue that circle. So, one thing about fatherhood and parenthood that I love is that you get to pick and choose what you want to bring into your own parenthood. And one thing that I talk to my dads about, and I'll say so I'm blue in the face, is that we need to be intentional
Mhm.
parents, or specifically intentional dads.
Mhm.
So my brand of how I raise my children might not be for you, but
Correct.
at least I know that what I'm doing is something that I want to do, and it's
Mhm.
something that I believe will leave a legacy. And I think that that's something everyone should go into parenthood with, is the fact that when you are intentional, things aren't falling by the wayside. You're
Correct.
doing things with a purpose. And I believe that that's something that if we all strive to do, I believe
Mhm.
our communities would look just a little bit better.
Absolutely. Now listen, like well, and I don't know how you do your programming, right?
Right.
But you said you are a man of faith, right?
Yes.
It is spiritual, right?
Right.
Because we are spirits in a body.
Right.
And then 2, when you look in the Old Testament, don't get me lying, what book and verse, I can find it. But in the Kings, First Kings,
Uh,
right, where they're talking about all the kings and they did wickedness like their
right.
father, more wicked than their father, where you can see the pattern between generations and how they were ruling and leading.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you're getting biblical. All right. I can stretch my biblical legs here and whatnot. But
Come
you're
on, man,
absolutely
faith.
right.
Come on, man of God.
You're absolutely right. And the
Mhm.
thing is that almost in every situation, that when the dad did wickedness, the son did wickedness. And a lot of times it could be a situation where the dad did some wickedness, and then you produce offspring that did all types of wickedness. It
Yeah,
was
they
just
multiply.
wickedness that was left and right. And a lot of times it always paled in comparison. But I got something for you. There
What
was
you got?
one guy I can think of. I'm pretty sure, like, when you start talking about the kings and things like that, there is one guy that you can really look at that changed the game. So, his name was Josiah.
Okay.
Josiah was one of the best kings of Israel. If you look at it, his dad committed, and when you look at the Epstein files, I mean, this is something that is, when you look at the Epstein files and they talk about some of the sacrifices that they did for kids, do not take my word for it. Look it up in the scriptures. Josiah's dad, I believe, was Manasseh. He committed the same type of ritualistic sacrifices with,
Really?
yes, it is. And so when people start saying, "Oh, I don't believe this is true," the same stuff that's happening in
Right.
2020 is the same thing that was happening BC, offering it to the same lowercase g God, kids, and things
Mhm.
like that. But Josiah was different. That was his dad. Josiah came into I believe he came into leadership as a teenager. Or if it wasn't a teenager, it was in the early 20s. I forget. His
Mhm.
whole goal was to sit there and say, I'm not like my father. I understand what he did was wrong. His whole goal was to clean up all the things that not only his dad and the previous generations did. And when you look at it, that's kind of what some of these new generations of dads are doing right now. These
Yep.
new generations of dads are stepping up to the plate, trauma and all. And they're saying, these are some of the things that I came into life with. Things weren't perfect, but I'm deciding that I'm going to have a different standard. And that standard is going to be me being present.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I have so many dads being involved in these dad groups, the fact that different organizations got hundreds of dads. There's more dad work going on across the country than ever before. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that dads are really starting to prioritize their mental health, really start to prioritize their family, it just shows that even that you can break generational cycles. You
Absolutely.
really can. And again, anytime I feel because I feel it. I feel the urge to get into some of these generational cycles. I think about Josiah. I think
Mm-hmm.
about that was a guy that should, and the funny thing about it, after Josiah, I believe it was Josiah's son or maybe someone else, they went
Yep.
right back into doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing. So at the end of the day, that teaches us that a lot of times that the systemic situation that we find ourselves into isn't the end all be all. We write our own stories. We are intentional. That's why I tell people intentionality is one of the biggest things that we can hone in on, because at the end of the day, once we write down the dad that we want to be, the parent that we want to be, that it's up to us. We just got to be what we are charging ourselves to be.
Right, that's so good. See, I done let you be show up as your full self, man of God. You just went off, okay? Okay, that was so good. That was so good. So good. And this is why I be telling people, you gotta get in your Bible. It's and like the older I
Absolutely.
got, the more I've just enjoyed it and to just see it play out like a movie in
Right.
my mind, right? These stories, and there's so much you can take from it. But shifting gears a little bit, why do you think vulnerability still feels unsafe for so many men? And what does emotional suppression actually look like in real life for some of the fathers that you support or just in general?
Well, we've never been taught how to be vulnerable. And I believe to be vulnerable, that's something that is a learned behavior. And at the end of the day, it's hard for me. And trust me, I teach vulnerability. Oh, I struggle with that word some days saying that. I struggle with it when I'm facilitating. I'm struggling with it now. But it's a struggle to be vulnerable. Something very simple that I struggle with. If I'm wrong, my child might not see it. Admitting to my child, "Hey, whatever
Mm,
I said or whatever what I did,
mm,
I was wrong, and I'm sorry." And a lot of times, shoot, even as a husband, when I'm wrong and admitting to that to my wife, let's just say my wife didn't even catch that I'm wrong, but just coming up to her and just being like, "Hey, I know I said this," and things like that, but I probably shouldn't have said that and whatnot. That's some of the stuff that we really need to really look at. And a lot of times it's that type of behavior, but also when there's something wrong, because those are examples of, all right, I might have been wrong, but when there's something wrong with me, like when I'm just not in my right space, like, I have friends, right? Everyone has friends. Everyone has family and, things like that. And, if you don't, I always tell people that is a priority. If you don't have people
you need
that you feel
community.
comfortable talking to or feel like this is a safe space, find it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Find people that you feel comfortable talking to, because if there's something wrong, whether it's a therapist, whether and you can start small. Feel and a lot of times, like, we have to really change the narrative. A lot of times, we have to really understand that we can start small and that if we go to somebody just to say whatever's on our chest, that it helps. It's freeing and whatnot. And then that could be a stepping stone to finding a therapist, to finding a counselor. But this whole aspect of being vulnerable, like, we have to create a narrative where we're teaching other folks, we're teaching other men that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to come up to another guy and say, "I am struggling. Because some days I really appreciate some of the people I have in my life because I've been able to say, I'm not talking about hopping on the phone because that means that I'm being very vulnerable. And that's where I want to get to, where I could just
Mhm.
call a random buddy of mine that is a father and just say, hey, I am struggling. But the
Yeah.
fact that there's like people in my life that I could just text something as small as text and
Mhm.
just say, hey, man, how did you do it? Because my kids are driving me up the wall. Hey, man, you're married. How did you do it? How did you really say, I don't care what's going on, but I'm going to be the leader that I know I am to be? Like, these are some of the things that we need to really find people who we can talk to about. And it's something that has to be learned because I'm still learning. And when it comes to generational cycles, I wasn't taught to do this. I
Mhm.
was taught to keep it on the inside and figure it out, to man up. And you don't have to do it like that. You
You don't
really
do
don't.
it alone. You don't, and this is why it's important to, like, have those elders and find people who are like, it's comfortable to talk to your friends, right? But
Right,
what do they know sometimes, right?
right.
Like, they've not quite been through it, or they don't have as much experience, or they may not have the same desire for leadership at the rate and level you do in that current moment, right?
Exactly.
So who you're comfortable speaking with may not be the wisest counsel.
Ooh, absolutely.
And then you talking to people and you're getting bad advice, or they have you engaged, man, forget that. Let's just go do this or whatever. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so it's important to have the people, but like vulnerability, I think based on observations and things that I've heard from men as well, is that that word I think is linked to physical vulnerability. And
Absolutely.
we're talking about emotional vulnerability. So if a man hears vulnerability, it's like, nah, man, I'm strong. Like, you know what I mean? That goes against identity and what it looks like to be a man when we're talking about two different things. And so
Exactly.
think that maybe why there could be some resistance to when a woman says, you know, I want emotional vulnerability. And he's like, I've been taught the exact opposite. Never have
Right.
vulnerability.
And some days it's a word I struggle to pronounce. So I'm with you. So at the end of the day, I would love to choose a different word because, and let's be honest, when I'm doing my fatherhood sessions, a lot of times I have to really define it. And I really have to define it
Yes.
because vulnerable vulnerability means a lot of different things to different
A lot
men.
of different people.
So that's something that yeah, I would love to change. And because I've definitely have been in spaces where people really didn't grasp what I was really
Yeah, they
talking
heard the
about.
word and they run with it. So I love that you're defining it. And really and truly, though, what I think a lot of times we as women are communicating is that because there is a hyper focus on being hard as a man, and what people are trying to say, they want to see the softer side without you melting. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like, and what's the middle part of that? So because it's like we're going from one extreme to the other is
right,
how it's thought about, and there's a whole lot in between. There's room to be very strong, but still show you don't always have to be on guard, you know?
right.
So, talk to me a little bit about what emotional suppression can actually look like in real life with fathers.
Oh man, I mean, that's a that's a whole podcast
Another
in
episode in
itself.
this.
Emotional suppression could look like a lot of different things, and it could be something as simple as being on edge.
Mm,
When it comes to a lot of times when I feel like that I'm, what's the word, snappy as a husband, as a father, and things like that, a lot of times it's because I'm suppressing an emotion because I just don't have time to deal with it.
mm,
And that can look a variety of ways, raising your voice, yelling, something I always hear when I talk to dads. My tone isn't the tone needed to have a conversation and things like that. It could be a lot. And I mean, suppression could also look like violence. A lot of times when you suppress certain things, how it comes out a lot of times can be like violent behavior. and things such as that. And yeah, and when you see some of the things happening in the community, and things that's been happening for the last a lot of it can come down to emotional suppression. And that's one of the reasons why I tell people that we have to find healthy alternatives to be able to uh let our emotions flow out of us,
Mhm.
because once the emotional aspect builds on the inside of us, when it comes out, it's going to come out in negative ways.
Yep.
I never see it come out where it's just like, oh, it's been building and it comes out and then everything was better. You could be 100% right on something, but
Mhm.
but when it builds and when it comes out, it's going to come out in a way that's going to now make you wrong. And a lot of times, that's something that guys, we struggle with immensely. And we have to make sure, because I always tell people we are a few bad Mondays away from being in a situation where we can crash out.
All right, beautiful people. If this episode has already blessed you in any sort of way, we ask that you like, subscribe, follow, share, and leave comments. Feedback helps this message reach the people who need it most. And if you're listening and thinking, I'm ready to go deeper in my healing journey, we invite you to join our school community where we continue these conversations between episodes. And it's an opportunity to connect with like minded individuals committed to growth, healing, and purpose. Also, do not forget you can shop the merch and also explore all things Evolve at evolvewithdrjnicole.com. If you love today's look and you're wondering about this hair, you can use my promo code with the link in the description to get 15% off with Unice hair. That's UNICE. Thank you for rising with us. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Mm.
And we don't want to be in a situation from we can crash out. So again, that might mean that you might need someone to talk to. That might mean that you might need to take some self-care. That might mean that you might have to talk to another dad. And a lot of times, if it's just a lot, if it's something that you can't resolve just based off of talking to a friend, talking to another dad, you might need to receive some professional help to really unpack the things that you're
Mhm.
keeping bottled up inside of you. Like, emotional suppression is huge. And if we can't be able to move forward, we're going to carry years and years of hurt, of trauma, and things like that. And not only is it devastating to the people around us, but it's devastating to the individual, because when you carry like scars and hurts, that stuff isn't good for your body mentally,
That.
physically, and emotionally.
Mhm.
And you're going to do just as much damage to yourself. So that's a big thing that I believe that we just really need to hone in on as a society, but also in our communities.
Yeah. That's so that what you're saying, it's gonna come out. We only have so much. We internalize, internalize, internalize. It's like you're being like you do, I think of the water towers. They only have so much capacity
Right.
and it can hold it, but say it's full and they're at their max. But what happens if they're holding that amount for the longest time,
Exactly.
right? Or okay, we can go biblical for a second. Wineskins.
Old.
Is you can't pour new wine into old
Right.
wineskins, right? Because it's not gonna have the ability to hold it, right? Like
Right.
it's not gonna work. Or is something going back to the water tower, right? If it's constantly at its maximum capacity, what happens when that thing just ruptures one day? Or if you think
Exactly.
about the pressure of a champagne bottle, have you ever seen a champagne bottle, like a video where it like breaks at the bottom?
Yes. Yes.
That's a different type of pressure
Right.
that within itself, it's built to contain it, but it got to be so much that the cork couldn't even go up.
Right.
And that speaks to like not having those healthy outlets. So then you explode. from the inside.
Exactly.
I'm good with a metaphor, an analogy.
Right, right. Definitely.
'Cause the visual, right?
Right.
The visual of that is so strong, and so but some people then they are finding outlets, but it's not healthy.
Yep.
It's gambling, it's escapism through any number of things, video
Right.
games, sports, or whatever. It is
Self-medication.
there we go, self-medicating, and that could be a lot of different ways that people are doing it, and so people find other ways to cope, but you're being taught to figure it out, but then being told that every way you try to figure it out is wrong or is not
Absolutely.
enough,
Right.
and so then you feel stuck, you feel trapped, and people don't have a way out, but I also think that's part of the design, the systemic design.
Absolutely.
But I'm not gonna go too deep there. Imma keep us moving along, but there is so much that Black men really starts sometimes as being Black boys are learning survival mode,
Yep.
and it starts very early, and same with Black women, Black girls. We learn survival mode early. It just looks very different for the both of us, but it doesn't look like us doing it together.
Right. And that's beautiful. We're not really doing it together. It's like you have our own fight, or you have your own fight. I have my own fight. Even and I felt like that growing up. And I was always thinking that your fight might be easier than my fight, or vice versa. My fight might be easier or harder. But at the end of the day, it was never like we need to do this together. And I feel like that's very different in
Yeah.
other races and other cultures and things like that. I really feel like that there's just a lot of hatred amongst Black men.
Hmm.
I say hatred, but but there's a lot of discourse between Black men and Black women
Mhm.
from an early age. And
Well,
it's just
that's
like,
also intentional,
what do
I
you say?
think. I said I also think that's intentional.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, technically it comes back from slavery.
Mhm.
What they did in slavery, like ripping families apart and pitting one
Dividing
person
us
against another. Right,
by complexion,
right,
by gender, by age, hair texture, features, everything to create self-hatred. They
right,
picked us apart. So if
right.
I can't love myself, how can I love you?
Exactly. And a lot of times I always want to tell people, be observant. One of the reasons why I wanted to get married is because I wanted other people to be observant of me.
Hmm.
And say that, "Oh, you can do that." Because even when, like, my parents were divorced and things like that, the
Mhm.
one thing I always say that I came, like, out of a good church. I had people I can look at and just say, "Everyone around me might be divorced, but this church ain't divorced." There's thriving married couples all over the place. And I think that's something that we really have to really look at. But even when you even getting away from the Black community, I always try to tell people to travel.
Yes.
Travel, get out of your hood, get out of your community, travel, go overseas, see how other people are doing it. Because when you really go to a place in Latin America or something like that, and you see how together people are, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm seeing so many people that they were together since they were teenagers and they just went through it. And it was just like they weren't married, but like they were just going, and they knew that they were going to be each other's helpmeets for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And they were able to say that as a child. That's some form of togetherness that I've never seen before. And when you go into different cultures and things like that, when you go into different Asian cultures, it gets almost jealous. Like I'm jealous that like these very tight family knit communities exist. Even when it comes down to something that I always talk about, or something that I always talk to when it comes to our fatherhood programs, is I always ask about the help. Like, what does the help look like? And when I mean
Mhm.
the help, like, how are the grandparents? And like, are they helping? A lot of times in these other communities, grandparents will say, "Oh, well, you just gave birth. I am about to live in your house. You can't
Yes.
get, and there is like not a no that you can say. That's just commonplace and
Mhm.
things such as that. And like, I'll bring this up. And people will say, well, that's not how my family works. And I think that we need to really get to that and really look at be intentional about our families. Like, what are other cultures doing?
Well,
And
so much so much of that got disconnected again because of the enslavement period, because that's
absolutely,
a common West African practice.
absolutely.
After you give birth, someone comes.
Right,
It could be a little cousin, it
right,
could be a auntie, it could be your mom.
right.
Somebody comes to the house and helps you recover. There's specific foods and things that they give you to help your body recover, like, but we were disconnected from that.
Absolutely. And so, you know what's funny? Some of the best advice I got from medical practitioners after we gave birth, I thought this advice was great. And I didn't know, like, I was very wet behind the ears when it came to this whole birthing process. So they were like, yeah, when family come over, don't have them take pictures with the baby. In fact, don't have them touch the baby. Have them leave the baby alone. When they get there, ask them to clean, ask them to do laundry,
Uh,
ask them to watch the house while you all sleep. I never heard anything like that. I was on Google. I was on I was asking AI, which should we do and things like that. I'm asking all types of questions. I never received any type of answers like that. But in reality, that's what other cultures do. And I really do appreciate the fact that these nurses and doctors were saying this, because I didn't realize that all parents wanted to do was just kind of like hold the baby, see the
Just say
baby, and things like
grandbaby.
that. So like, that's something that really like spoke like really to me. And a lot of times it's because that's what other cultures do. And again, getting back to what you said, a lot of different African society can't really say, but a lot of different African culture is that. And they're very family oriented. And like you said,
Mhm.
we just kind of got ripped away from that. And it's sad because a lot of times you can see their family, their culture when they come into the States. And again, when it comes to seeing our graduations versus their graduations, a quick little story. We had a graduation one day for one of my family members, and it was right next to an African graduation. Night and day. I mean, to tell you the amount of family members that they were able to get to come to the graduation. There was people all because I'm still up here talking, because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to I always like to talk to different people and things like that. There's people from California. There's
Mhm.
people from all over the country coming. There's people from the motherland that came to America specifically for that graduation.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, man, it's hard to get people that live 4 or 5 hours away to go come to that graduation. So it's just like, man, like, but that's what they prioritize. Family is like the number one thing that they prioritize. Legacy is another thing that they prioritize. I'll go tell you something else. What are we naming our kids, our
Mhm.
children? Because last time I checked, when I talked to different Africans, different people across the world, when they name their children, that name comes with meaning.
Yeah. But also, again, we were ridiculed. Our ancestors were ridiculed for trying to continue those things.
Now you're right. But even me, and like, I understand where that came from. They tried to give them
Mhm.
English type names, European names, and things like that. So nowadays, when I had my children, I said, what do I want? I was intentional about it. What do I want my children's names to be? And align that up with their purpose. So before they even came out, they're already built with
It's very
purpose.
biblical of you.
Well, So like, at the end of the day, that's something that I want to make sure that when my
Mhm.
children get older, that they'll know. They might stray off the path, but
Mhm.
when they're off the path, they know, hey, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
it gives them a sense of not only identity, but it
Mhm.
also gives them a
Exactly.
sense of a self-worth and, whatnot. So, these are
Exac
things that, like, I definitely try to tell parents. These are some of the intentional things that we might wanna look into because what other groups are doing, some things might be off, some things might be right, but we need to take all of this stuff into consideration as being a parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about, I don't wanna go Imma make a statement, but I don't wanna go too deep because that in itself could be another podcast episode.
Okay.
I think for a lot of us, we are in identity crisis, spiritual identity crisis as well, right?
Absolutely.
And there's what you're talking about, like in your intentionality in naming your children,
Yep,
that's a form of reclaiming history and culture. And also, it's a way of breaking those cycles, right? You're
absolutely.
bringing the things back and you're welcoming and you're reclaiming what was once yours. But guess what? You don't need anyone's permission to do it.
Right,
You have to have it in you to for that to be a value of yours,
right,
to say that you want to do it differently. And depending on your own ancestry, right? We say African American. Our ancestry is our ancestry, right? Like
right,
that's you too if you have it in, in your ancestry. And for some people, the only way that they do find out is by doing one of the ancestry kits or tests,
right.
right? Find that out. And so like, okay, I'm going on a tangent. Like even I went to
No,
Ghana.
it's okay, it's okay.
I have a my highest ancestral, like, countries are Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, but it's Ghana with, Benin and Togo together because those are very closely
Right.
located. Cameroon, Nigeria, might be one more, but those are the top, right? So I love food
Mhm.
anyway, number
Right.
1, and I was eating the food, and one of the people we were with having the meal, she was like, "You eating that food like you from here." I said, "Because I am."
Right, 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 right,
Because I am, because it's in who I am, you know what
right,
I mean? Like, "Girl, don't play with me."
right.
But there is that separation that continues to be between us.
Absolutely.
She was joking because I think to Americans, we get a bad rap, like, we can't handle heat, we can't handle spice, and because
Right.
they were like, "It's spicy." I know, I like spice. I'm good. Like,
Right, right, right. And that's
uh
been my experience as well, and I let them know, like, my, ancestors used to grow some of the hottest peppers. So,
yeah.
I just want you to know, like, I might have lost some things, but my ability to handle spice, I have not
Hey, it's
lost.
intact.
Right, right, right. It's quite it's
Okay. So bringing us back though to
yeah,
legacy and children.
right.
So that unresolved pain, the emotional suppression, what does that impact look like in the family and how children absorb what their fathers are exhibiting rather than expressing?
Well, a lot of times, if we're not able to, um, if we're emotionally suppressing a lot of the things that we're going or that we're dealing with, a lot of times that can end up being, um, that can come out as being short with our kids,
Mhm.
being, emotionally distant from our kids. I mean, there's
Mm.
some days I would just wake up and I would just be like, man, I don't even feel like being a father today. I mean, that is a real type of thing. Also, it could be being at the end of the day, there's like certain aspects of yelling. There's certain aspects of being overly critical of your kids. We like
Mhm.
and even coming from like we come from the same we come from the same origin. We live in the United States. Some days that can also look at being overly critical of our kids. We have to speak life into our kids. And a lot of times when we don't address some of the trauma that we have, a lot of times we can be overly critical of our kids. And I can see myself doing it now. One of the things that I say is, man, you kids are spoiled. Why? Because they come from a two-parent household and I didn't.
And they're not spoiled. They have what they're supposed to have. But you know
Exactly.
what's underneath that comment? Comparison.
And that's exactly what it because I still have unresolved issues from my childhood.
That's good
I came
self-awareness,
from a
James.
one-parent household, so at the end of the day, I'm looking at these children and I'm just like, "Oh, y'all are spoiled." No, this is how it's
You're
supposed to
doing
be.
what you're supposed to do, though. That means you're being a good father.
Absolutely. I'm cutting myself down. So these are
Mhm.
some of the and if I can do it, other people can do it. And when it comes to every community struggles with this. So I don't want to just say that it's the black community.
It's
Every
not a black
community.
issue, but that's how they want the world to see it. You go to any country, they're single mothers,
Right.
they're
Right.
absent fathers, they're people
Exactly.
struggling with raising their kids, there's crime, kids are experimenting with drugs, like, all the stuff that they try to put on us, you see this in every single society.
Absolutely. And we have to get past that. We really have to get past the fact that there's negative aspects that we've gone through, but let's not put that onto our children. Let's speak life onto our children. Even when our children miss the mark, let's speak life into our children.
About it.
We can talk about the incident, but let's not talk about the person.
Yep.
Let's not be parents that put additional trauma onto our children because a lot of times when we have suppressed feelings and emotions we can talk down to our children
Mhm.
and we want our children like for me, I want my children when they grow up to want me to be in their life. I don't
Ooh,
want my children to say, "I can't be around my dad. My dad I can't talk to my dad. My dad's gonna flip out. Oh, my dad's gonna call me names." These are things when I talk to children, I've worked extensively with children. I've
mhm.
so before I got married, before I had children and things like that, I've heard children say these things,
Yep.
and a lot of times I'll also hear, "Well, when I get older, I'm moving far away, and I just wanna go get away from my parents." And even when I see children who are college age, like, we do coaching,
Mhm.
at Rooted in Healing with, college students as well. A lot of times, I'm saying, "Oh, you're, like, 1,000 miles away from your parents. Why?" And they'll tell me, "I just couldn't be around them."
A
And
lot of kids are counting the clock down.
right, right, and to be honest, that's sad
It
because
is.
and there's nothing wrong with going 1,000 miles to pursue your career. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but if the majority of the reason why you want to do that is just to escape your family, then we gotta be accountable as parents. We
Yep.
have to sit up there and say, "Am I driving my children away?" Because I'll be honest, like, if I was in a household that wasn't as loving, I wouldn't wanna be in the same state
Mhm.
as my mom. I mean, there's other great places Black people could be. I could've moved to Atlanta, I could've moved to California, I could've moved to the South, like, other places in the South, Birmingham, North Carolina, like, there's other places I could've gone and whatnot, but I wanted personally to be closer to my family. So,
Mhm.
we also have to look at the bigger picture because people just think or parents just think, like even I, think like this too. Oh, well, I helped birth this child into the world, so they own me. They're
Ooh,
not gonna leave.
this a good
No, it's
segue.
really dependent on how I treat my children. If I don't treat my children well, they're gonna wanna leave. And
Mhm.
there's a lot when it comes to that too, attachment styles and things like that. So I always wanna encourage people, just watch how you're talking to your children. We wanna make
Mhm.
sure that we're encouraging. I always want to make sure that even when they miss the mark, that they
Yeah.
miss the mark with love, and I let
Yeah.
them know that they missed the mark with love. Be encouraging because at the end of the day, this is the long game.
Yeah.
Parenting is the long game.
It
Some would
is.
say parenting really doesn't start till your child's able to really form high quality sentences and they're able to make decisions on their own and whatnot. That's
Mhm.
when parenting really starts.
Yep.
Once they have emotions, once they are able to make decisions, some would say that's when parenting really starts. Some would say that's when parenting really becomes the most tricky because like they're not going to be just like you.
Love that. And building on that, what does emotionally present parenting or fatherhood actually look like?
That means always being there for your child, for your significant other, you know. And for instance, I'll go give you an example.
Mhm.
For a long time, I have loved indulging self-medication when it came to smoking marijuana
Mhm.
and whatnot. One of the things that really stopped me was the fact that I used to be like, "Oh, man, my wife wants to talk to me about something, not even bad." And I would be
Mhm.
like, "Well, I better hit a J because I know that I can just go somewhere else." That's not being emotionally present
Correct.
because literally I'll just be like, cool. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, that's how your day went, man. And I wasn't there. Same thing with the kids. And a lot of times it would just be like, oh, well, they don't know. And to them, I'm being a good dad. To them, I'm being a good husband. No.
But
And
how
it's the
would they
same thing.
know? This is all in your head and you've not asked them, right? But you see how we make up things?
Right, right, right. But I mean, but to a certain extent, like, I was a pro. Like I was a pro. So if I could fool the whole office and everything into, them not knowing, then this is how my thinking was. Then what is the family? And that's the reason why it was bad behavior. That's the reason why it was behavior that
And you were
that
performing.
right. Exactly. And and that's the reason, and I always tell that because in this day and age, it's just like, oh, man, well, a lot of the dads I deal with, oh, it's like, I need that. If I can't have that. But at the end of the day, are we being present? Because if I have to go somewhere else in my brain to deal with just the simple, hey, how was your day?
That
Hey,
means you're
what
too
happened at
full.
school today?
Yeah.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
And that means that the person is too full. The man is too full if he doesn't have room to have a basic conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I've really thought about that. I really wrapped my head because I felt like I also was indoctrinized
Mhm.
into I felt like that I believed the hype. I felt like I was just like, "This is okay," and y'all could spit facts, all types of things that this isn't good for you. But I saw it. I felt bad about it. Like I was able to see it because I just was thinking to myself, like, man, I just really did a good one. Like I talked to the kids, I put them to sleep and things like that. Like I did everything that I was supposed to do. I tickled them and everything. Like, shoot, I gave my wife a nice big hug and things like that. But then I was just like, but you didn't mean it. And then that made me feel bad, to be honest. I mean, that made me feel like a crappy
Mhm.
individual. That made me feel like that, like, yo, I'm essentially turning my brain off just to deal with life.
And
And
it
that's
sounded
something that I never wanted to do. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
you had like a checkbox. I've done this, I've done that. Good dad.
Right, right, right. And a lot of times that's how we are. A lot of times that's how we are. Like we have our checkbox of things to do as a dad, but also, and this is where we have to look in the mirror and really look at ourselves. The dad that when I wrote down the dad that I wanted to be, emotionally present was there. So even though I checked out 9 of the 10 boxes, I was just like, but I'm not doing that emotionally present situation.
It's good.
And then it's just like, all right, so I hit 9 of the 10 aspects. I'm batting the 90%. That's good. But also, it's just like, what does that look like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now?
Mhm.
And if I don't get this now, this will be an issue. So I had to stop. I
Yep.
had to stop. I couldn't do it recreationally. I couldn't do it just with, I just had to stop because it doesn't line up with the parent that I want to be.
That's
And
good,
I was
Jay.
intentional about the parent that I wanted to be, the father that I wanted to be, and the leader that I wanted to be in my household. So I had to make the hard choice. And to be honest, it really wasn't a hard choice. It was, I'm choosing my family over everybody, over anything. So I don't want when my children are adults to be like, yeah, man, my dad had this problem. Yeah, man, my dad had that problem.
Mhm. And
These
it
aren't
wouldn't so much be that's where they would stop. and they would say, "Because my dad, da 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 da, I,
Right,
da da
right.
da 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 da."
And I don't want to be the reason for my children needing therapy. I don't want to be the reason for my children doing bad behavior. I
Mhm.
don't want to be the reason for my child moving thousands of miles away from me. Like, to be honest, that would mean that I missed the mark. As I talked about, there's a standard that I have for myself.
Mhm.
That would mean that I missed that standard.
Mm.
So, yeah, so that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay, that's good, and I really appreciate your openness. So maybe instead of vulnerability, it's openness that we use, right?
Yes.
Emotional openness.
Emotional openness. I like
Yeah,
that. I like
because
that.
some people be like, "Nah, she got me open. I don't like that." You know what I mean? It's still like an issue because y'all are taught to be shut down. But
Right,
I appreciate you being open and vulnerable to share from your own experiences and how you chose to prioritize family and
right.
how you were able to see yourself incorrect and didn't allow your pride and ego to stop you. So, how does healing begin for men who've been taught survival more than that emotional awareness or emotional openness?
That's a very good question. I think healing begins for men when we pause.
Mm,
I think we got to pause first. We have to pause and we have to reflect.
come on.
And that's very important because men, we're on the go. We are ripping
Mhm.
and running. We're moving to the next task. We're doing the next thing. A lot of times we have to pause, stop what we're doing, and then we have to think and we have to reflect on our actions. Why did I do what I just did?
How do men start to be more emotionally open and available after they've been taught survival?
Right. Yeah. So we have to pause, we have to reflect, and we have to renew. And that means we have to look at our actions, look at some of the things that we are doing and say, is this what I need to do to continue? And a lot of times we will do things that we shouldn't be doing. And if I'm having to pause, I'm having to reflect and look at certain actions and things like that, that's where I know that there probably is a problem. So
Mm,
a lot of times what I need to do is to just look at myself and have a hard look at myself. And really, once we get to the reflection aspect, then we need to incorporate changes. And that's the renewing aspect. What do I need to do to make sure that I am being good to my family? And when I mean being good to my family, I mean that I'm really there for my family, that I'm being intentional for my family. So that might mean cutting things out. That might mean adding things to my life, adding therapy to my life, adding counseling to my life, or it might mean adding a fatherhood program to my life. Maybe I need to be around more fathers. These are different things that
mm,
we might need to incorporate into our lives to ensure that we're making ourselves more open and whatnot. Because we have to be more open to not only ourselves, but we have to be more open to our surroundings. Because a lot of times when we don't really pause and take time to reflect on our lives and our actions, we end up hurting those around us.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. And so, also in your work with Rooted in Healing, there's an emphasis on brotherhood and accountability, which I think is hugely important because a lot of men are suffering in isolation.
Right.
So, talk about why emotionally safe community is important for men when men finally feel safe enough to be emotionally honest.
Well, emotionally, honesty is very important. One of the things that Rooted in Healing, whether you're doing the mental health workshop, counseling, therapy, coaching, our biggest goal is to create a safe space. I think
Mm,
that's the biggest thing that we can do is create
mhm,
a safe space. That way we can be ourselves. That way we can really look inward and we can really do what we need to do to heal and things like that. So, and one thing about our mental health workshops is in our fatherhood program is that we allow the safe space to be one of the main things that we do so dads can talk. So
mhm.
dads can listen And well, I mean to tell you, it's so therapeutic.
Yeah.
When I'm around dads, even though I'm leading something, I'm learning.
Mhm.
So if I'm learning, the dads are learning. I'm learning from other dads. Other dads uh give me energy. And there's something to that. They say iron sharpens iron
Yep.
and, whatnot. It's the same thing with our motherhood program. When all the mothers are around, when the mothers are around other mothers, not only is there safety there, but there is all types of community.
Mm.
There's a lot of times dads aren't gonna agree with each other, but one
Right.
thing that I can agree is that there's more that brings us together than more that separates us.
Mhm.
And one thing that if you're a dad and you're in one of our programs, it's because you're striving to be a good dad. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that really so one of the things that I do in my fatherhood program is that every fatherhood session, I ask for the father wins. The father
That's good.
wins. So I
Mhm.
ask for the fatherhood wins. Every dad will go across the room to talk about the successes that they've had. It could be something as simple as my child ate fruit for the very first time, or my child got
Yeah.
an A on their report card or something like that. I want the space to be a space where we're celebrating dad accomplishment, fatherhood successes, because that's important
Yep.
and whatnot. And that's what it comes when it comes to creating a safe space, because this is a space where we are able to talk about the good things that dads are doing. And when I'm in a room where I can hear fathers talk about their accomplishments, then I want to have the same type of accomplishments also.
Yep.
And that's where and that's the start of accountability because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason, to be good dads. So that way we can have tough conversations. That way we can have there's certain things that I've incorporated based off of other dads. And I've incorporated into my style of parenting, my leadership based off of what another dad has said. So it's powerful. It's
Good.
powerful being in
Yeah.
in a safe space where a dad can talk, where a dad can be themselves.
That's so important to hold that space. It really and truly is. And so, there's a lot of different discussion about like masculinity, especially online, right? But not enough about the emotional wellness and what it looks like for masculinity and that emotional awareness, to coexist. So, what do you think healthy masculinity actually looks like today?
Well, to be honest, healthy masculinity is prioritizing your emotional awareness. Like
Okay.
that's healthy masculinity to me. And it's basically everything that we've been talking about. Being intentional of the parent that you want to be, being intentional leaders, being intentional to the fact that I have a responsibility over these children. I have the responsibility to be the provider, be the protector, be their peace essentially. So I'm going to move in a way where I provide all of those things. That's what
Mm,
really positive masculinity is all about. And I get it, like where there's a positive, there's also a negative as well. But when it comes to what society they focus too much on the negative parts of masculinity and things like that. I see dads who are show and illustrate positive masculinity all the time.
okay.
And it's something that should be because now masculinity is kind of like a bad word when it comes to that word, but really it should be celebrated because when you really think of it, like in my household, I am leading a household to have healthy outcomes. And we're going to do that through positive masculine ways of getting to that goal. So I think that this is something that should be treasured in our communities because when you have fathers who are intentional and they're
Mhm.
are really looking towards legacy, I mean, the only way you can do that is through a lens of masculinity and through a lens of being emotionally aware because masculinity isn't who is the loudest.
Mm,
Masculinity isn't who can overtalk who. Masculinity is all about being emotionally aware. Masculinity is making sure that everyone that you're presiding over is okay. Everyone that I'm presiding over, that they are on the path that they need to be on.
That's so good. That was good, James.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So now I want you to speak directly to the man who may be watching or listening very quietly. The man who's emotionally exhausted, who's carrying pressure silently, who feels overwhelmed but doesn't know where to begin. What would you say to that man? And what's the first step towards healing that feels realistic and accessible for that man?
Whew. Uh, yes. To the man that's watching that feels like this, again, I'm just going to say to pause because
Mhm.
a lot of times we cannot just continue going. Pause, take time for yourself. Start with a walk. Start with, even if you can't take a walk, look out the window. Do simple things like that. Put yourself in nature where you can just be alone in your thoughts. And again, I'm going to ask you to, how do you feel? Really think about how you are feeling. Really think about your senses, your five senses. How do you feel? Where are you? And really try to dive down deep into your emotional state. How are you feeling? Is this something that you feel often or is this something that is new? We have to really pinpoint why we feel the way that we are feeling. Then again, I always tell men, look into the mirror. What do you see? Are you happy about with what you see?
Mm,
Look at your actions.
mhm,
I had to look at my actions when I was talking to you about self-medicating, and I had to look into the actions. Were these the actions that you believe a father would take?
mhm,
So look at the actions that you're doing and really write down how you're feeling, write down the actions that you're making, and then figure out who to talk to. Figure out who you can talk to. I prefer talking to another male.
mhm,
It doesn't have to be another male. It could be someone you might not have a male in your life, but it can be someone who is trusted. Again, when we were talking about the safe space that Rooted in Healing always does for their mental health workshops or their father or
mhm.
otherhood program, find a place that is safe where you can talk about some of the things that you're writing down about what's going on. So we want to make sure that we are talking to individuals because talking to individuals is a way that we can really release some of the inner turmoil that's on the inside of ourselves. And some days we have to release it slowly in order that we don't crash out and in order so we don't end up like that champagne bottle and
Yeah.
just explode in a non-productive way. And when we talk to somebody, write down how that felt. Write down how you feel after talking to that individual
Mhm,
because that's really going to really be the evaluation on your next steps. Do you feel better? Is there more healing that needs to take place?
mhm,
And also, there are plenty of dads going through the same thing that you are going through. Find a program. It doesn't have to be anything that costs money. There's free fatherhood initiatives,
all over the
programs,
country.
spaces where you can talk to dads. Shoot, my thing was I used to always like going to little tabling events
Mhm,
because I would go to different tabling events across Washington, DC, where I know there would be dads, where I know there'd be clinicians. Cause my thing was, I was like, I don't think I want to go through the process of really going through trying to find the right therapist just for something, like and I'm surrounded around therapists and things like that. I'm surrounded like around clinicians and things like that. Finding a clinician that fits your needs, your
yeah.
schedule and things like that. Some days that can be very daunting and whatnot. So I didn't really wanna take that time, especially when I do try to do various healthy ways, and I might not have needed one in that season of my life. So I would go to a place where there would be other male clinicians where I could just talk to for free, where I
Yep.
could just see, like, you can't run away from me because you have to be here and, whatnot, and I would talk to them.
Okay.
And these are ways that I could get, people to talk to who are trained to create a safe space. They're trained to talk to other people, but also they have to talk to me, like, because 'cause they're here, they're tabling or they're at this event and things like that. So
Mhm.
and I'm saying that for the people who do not have the resources or they might not have the opportunity to have another male in their life. There have been times where I didn't have certain males in my life, and I've had to go that route. But if you have the resources, if you don't have males in your life, then you might have to find that counselor, that therapist, that individual to help you through the process of healing because it is a process. And the way I heal might not be the same route that you heal, and vice versa. I might be able to get over something in a week. It might
Yep.
take you a year and things like that. So shoot, and one thing about it, the grieving process is something that is very extensive. And we grieve over people think that we grieve when there's a death, but we grieve over many different things, missed
Yep.
opportunities. We grieve over my old life. Like, for instance, one of the things that I needed when I became a father is that I miss my old life. I miss being able to get up one day and be like, I want to play basketball for 5 hours. No one was stopping me. Can't do that as a dad. I can't just wake up and be like, I want to play basketball for 5 hours and things like that. I had to get over that. And it took months for me to get over the fact that my time is not my own.
Mhm.
So these are some of the things that we have to do. But I just want you, if you're listening to this, if there's any men listening to this, that there are other men who have been through this, who have gone through some of the things that you're going through. You are not alone. And that's one of the reasons why I created an app called Forge for Fathers, because there needs to be a digital space where guys can connect. There's always gonna be situations where, like, what if you lived in a rural area and you can't go to a place where there's gonna be male
Mhm.
clinicians? Well, you could download Forge for Fathers and you could talk to a male clinician. You could talk to another dad that's going through the same thing that you're going through. And it can be digital. You don't have to leave your house. You can just do it, download the app and be on your phone and find a guy that can help you for free. So that's one of the reasons why I created this app is so that we can provide something for dads where dads can create safe space to talk to other dads because talking is literally something that we have to do. And
Mhm.
we can have that openness with other dads. I don't like being open with everyone, but I love being open with other dads because we're in the same battle together. It's almost
Mm.
like military people. Military people, they won't talk to someone outside the military about their experiences, because how would you ever understand what the military person is going through? No, they talk to the person who has gone to war. They talk to the person who's been in the military, who's gone to basic training.
Mhm.
So when there's an app like that, you want to talk to other dads that have gone through the birthing process, that has gone through postpartum um, 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 trauma and postpartum anxiety. These are stuff that dads go through and consistently have to go through. And we need a space where dads can talk about that.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things that this conversation is bringing to light is that men are human before they are providers.
Exactly.
And emotionally safe fathers or emotionally safe men don't just change homes, they change generations. And James, I want
Absolutely.
to thank you for the work that you're doing and thank you for helping create spaces where men can feel seen, supported, emotionally honest, and human. And I want to close you with our signature question.
Okay.
If you could leave our audience with one powerful truth to help them rise and thrive, what would it be?
One powerful truth to help you rise and thrive.
To help the audience, yes. Anyone listening?
Anyone listening, I just want people to know that you are an individual and there is nobody else like you. Nobody else like you, from your look to what's on the inside of you to your personality. You are one and there is nobody else like you.
One of one.
And one of one. Yes, there we go. That's what I mean to say. You are one of one. But just like everybody else, we need to make sure that we are healthy.
Yeah.
And just like a mental health situation can happen to anybody. So if I have a cold, I need to take medicine. And just because we are different, just because we are one on one, one of one, that doesn't mean that we are immune to our mental health.
Well,
So I just want to make sure that everyone's prioritizing their mental health. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that they are special and that they have the power to be intentional people, intentional mothers, and intentional fathers, and that together we can build legacy in our community.
that was so great. Thank you so much, James. All right, audience, this is where we're shifting to you. I want you to take a moment to reflect. What stood out to you most from today's conversation? Whether it was recognizing how many men have been taught survival before emotional safety, or understanding how children absorb emotional presence, excuse me. Whatever it is, I want you to take note of it. And then I want you to take action. This week, I want you to take one intentional step towards emotional honesty, emotional regulation, or meaningful conversation within your relationships, your family, or with yourself. And understand that healing is not about perfection, it is about progression. And it starts with awareness. And then finally, I'm going to affirm you. And this time, I want you to repeat with me or repeat after me. I do not have to suffer in silence to be strong. Healing is not weakness. Emotional awareness is strength. And I deserve spaces where I can heal, grow, and be fully human. And if this conversation impacted you in any way, make sure you subscribe to the channel, you follow the podcast, like this video, this episode, share it with someone who needs this conversation. And I really want to hear from you in the comments. What part of this conversation resonated with you the most? Your perspectives and reflections help create community here at Rise and Thrive. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or another audio platform, make sure you follow the show and leave us a review because it truly helps these conversations reach more people. And if you want to continue your healing, growth, and faith journey beyond the podcast, make sure you visit evolve.drjnicole.com. You can find out about me, my practice, services offered, as well as you can shop the Rise and Thrive collection. You can access some other wellness resources and just stay connected. And my Fruit of the Spirit devotional is now available on Amazon and is created to help people to slow down, reflect deeply, pray intentionally, and grow spiritually one day at a time. Thank you again for watching Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. And remember to keep rising in faith and thriving in purpose.